Mr. Medic.
Thank you, President. My question is for the Minister for Agriculture. On 2 separate occasions, a backyard slaughterhouse in Kooyrup has been exposed by undercover investigators. Covert footage recorded sheep being put upside down in metal crates, their legs tied and their heads hanging over buckets to catch blood as their throats are cut. Some take many minutes to die while thrashing and expressing purposeful movement. On both occasions, a number of biosecurity hazards were also recorded. These included a peacock wandering in and out during slaughter, cats and kittens eating offcuts in the slaughter area, and even rats running across the floor. Despite this, Agriculture Victoria has recently made a decision not to prosecute. This has caused a lot of community upset. Can the Minister please advise why this decision was made?
Mr. Stein.
Thank you, President, and I thank Mr Medic for his question, and it is indeed a matter that has been brought to my attention from a few sources. So indeed I sought advice from Agriculture Victoria to understand this case better. The property in question is a private farm and not an abattoir or a meat processing facility that would be licensed with PrimeSafe. Farmers in Victoria may slaughter their own livestock on their farm for private consumption on that farm. Meat from these animals is not permitted to be sold or to leave the farm. When home slaughter is conducted, the relevant code of practice must be adhered to for the humane destruction of the species being slaughtered. Agriculture Victoria has investigated the complaint referenced, which included inspecting the property. The investigation has been closed, and as Mr Medic identified, there's no charges been laid. Agriculture Victoria's effectiveness in bringing alleged animal cruelty matters to the courts is reliant upon the cooperation of all parties involved, including those who have provided footage of alleged cruelty. In any situation where Agriculture Victoria determines that there is sufficient evidence to pursue a prosecution for an offence under the POCTA Act, charges can be brought to the Magistrates Court. In making this determination, many factors are considered, including the existence of relevant and admissible evidence, the possibility of evidence being excluded, and the reliability of witnesses, and indeed the willingness of those witnesses to provide evidence or cooperate with any prosecution. Further, a High Court decision earlier this year set a new precedent that all states and territories dealing with animal cruelty matters generally making illegally obtained evidence, including covert footage, inadmissible. In this context, the cooperation of potential witnesses become even more important. And Mr Medic, I know this case is something that you are very concerned about, but I hope that that gives you context about the situation and how we've had to deal with it.
Thank you. Mr. Medic, supplementary.
Thank you, President, and I thank the Minister for her answer and alluding to this whole thing, and we can boil that answer down into the fact that the footage obtained was obtained covertly, and that was the reason that it was excluded and not a prosecution allowed to continue, as it's been explained to me. Now, animal cruelty, no matter what the setting, is a matter of public interest. Will the Minister consider reform to ensure that covert evidence of animal cruelty is admissible in these situations?
Thank you, President, and thank you, Mr Medic, for your supplementary question. And of course, these are complex matters that don't just relate to the example of what you've provided. There's broader implications for our legal system and the admissibility or otherwise of evidence. But the Surveillance Devices Act provides a public interest exemption that may apply to what would otherwise be illegal use of a surveillance device. Trespass and threats of trespass have a huge emotional impact on our farmers, their families and their country communities. So there's many factors to consider when we look at areas of change in this law. The government does maintain that deciding whether the public interest exemption applies is a matter for the courts and to determine the merits of this on every individual case.